Well, it's been a while since I posted anything on AnyRail, or anything at all for that matter. I apologize for that, but my creative muse took an extended vacation sometime in 2022, and I think she may be back here in early 2023. But we'll see about that. So a while back, I promised that I would talk about adding some scenery to your AnyRail drawing. Now in this video, I will attempt to show you how to add simple things like rivers and lakes. This won't be a very detailed explanation because my artistic abilities really aren't that hot, and I could barely draw the pirate or the parrot that you would find in the back of magazines long ago. So let's get started. So up on the screen right now is my current idea for my railroad. Now let's say we want to add a pond right over here in this area. So let's zoom in on that area. We'll hold down the control key and use the mouse wheel and zoom in and drag that over. So we're going to put our pond right about here. So what we'll do first is we're going to add a layer for our scenery. So we'll come over here and we'll go to Add Layer. Then we'll scroll down and find that new layer we just created. Double click on it. We'll take all of that out. And we're going to type in a new name for this layer. And I want all of my scenery elements to be in layers starting with the number 13. So we're going to type in 13.0 space scenery. Hit enter. And then we'll go up here and we'll click on layer name. And then we'll click it again. And now we've got 13 right where we want it. Now, if you need more information on how to do layers, please see video 16. Layers are our friends, and that will fill you in on how to create and arrange layers in your project. So now let's add another layer, and we're going to name this layer Pond, because we're going to make that pond. So let's erase that. We're going to give it the number 13.1. And as you can see, I already have a 13.2 here that's called bridge. So we're going to make this 13.1 and we're going to call it pond. Hit enter. Come up here. Arrange it. I have to do it twice so we can start with 0, 0 up here. And now we should have pond. And because it's highlighted, that means that is our active layer. And that's the layer we're going to be drawing on. All right, so let's start putting our pond in. We're going to come up here to Insert, and the ribbon changes to this, and we're going to select Add Rectangle. I'm going to click on that, bring my mouse down here. Now I'm going to start adding points for my pond. I can click anywhere I want down here. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to be very exact. So let's start adding points. I'm going to left click. There's my first point. Left click again, my second point. Third point, fourth point, fifth, 6th, 7th. Doesn't look like much now, but it'll look better in a moment. So now I'm going to right click and stop adding points. And we have a basic outline for our pond. Now we can go in and add or subtract points, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But before I add any more points, let's curve the edges of the pond. And I'm going to do this by left clicking and selecting the outline. So come up here and I'm going to click on that. And as you can see, when I clicked on it, the outline turned green, and that means we're now working on this surface. Also, when I do this, the ribbon up here changes, and I get all these options up here. I can now go to the area where it says normal corners, round corners, or curved corners. Now, when you first draw a surface, it's going to default to normal corners, and that means it's just straight, like that. So what you can do now is you can try different types of corners. So let's try round corners. And now the pond looks like that. Or I can try curved corners, and it looks like that. Personally, I like round corners for the pond. I think that looks better, but you choose whichever one looks best to you. So from here, I can add or delete points. Now to do this, I will come up here and I will select the pond by clicking on the outline line. So if it was looking like that, I'd come up and I'd hit it and it would turn green again. And I do that with the left mouse button. Now I'm going to do the right mouse button and I get add point right here. Click on that and it adds a point. It always adds the point where you clicked on the outline. So if I click here or hover the mouse over that point, and then right click and say add point. There's my new point. And now that I have these new points, I can change the outline of my pond like that by dragging those points around. I'm going to tuck that one in here a little bit. I think I'll pull that one up there. And there's my basic shape for the pond. Now, if I find I want to delete a point, all you have to do is right-click on the point that you wish to send into the cornfield and then select Delete Point, and it goes away. And just keep going and adding points, deleting points, and moving them around until you have a happy little pond. So now we have our pond, but unfortunately it's gray in color. Now this is good for an industrial wastewater pond, but it's not so hot for swimming or fishing. So what we want to do is we want to change the color. So we'll select the outline again, just like this. And then the ribbon opens up above and gives us all of our options. So let's go up here and we're going to go to Fill Color. Click on that and we'll select a blue. Let's select that one right there, turquoise. Now we have a blue pond. And just for the heck of it, even though it will look kind of dopey, you can change the line color of the outline and its width to simulate ground around the pond. To do this, we're going to go up here to Line Color. We're going to click on that, and let's say we're going to use the color brown. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to change the line width. And in this case, we're going to make it 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to type in 0.25 and hit enter. And if you look down below, we now have a brown outline. I'm going to click out here to get rid of that bounding box. And now we've got that brown around the outside of the pond. Now, if we don't like the placement of our pond, we can select it, hold down the left mouse button while I'm on the outline, and I can move the pond around. I can also come up here where that green dot is, and that allows me to rotate the pond. So now I have that circular arrow, and I am going to hold down the left mouse button, and I can rotate my pond into another position. I could do that, and then I could grab it here, move it up here, do whatever I want with it. I'm going to Control Z and take it back to the way it was. Now I can add some more scenery details. I can add some shrubbery. And to do this, we're going to open up the User Objects library. So we go up here to User Objects, and if you followed my earlier video about creating custom user libraries, navigate to the library where you put items such as trees and shrubbery. Now in my case, it's called Scenery Plants HO, so that would be over here. I take that back. It's going to be here, and I actually have it called Scenery Plants. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to add in my library that I made that has all of the previously built AnyRail trees and shrubs and things like that. Now I can go in and I can drag these guys in and place them around the pond. I can do it like that. Let's select another one and move that. Whoops. Let's select you. And we're going to move you down here. And there we go. Now we have some trees around our pond. And again, we can rotate our trees and move them around, do whatever we want with them. Now, one thing to point out, I did not make a layer change when I put in the trees and the shrubbery. This means they all came in on the pond layer. Now, of course, you could have made another layer for the trees around the pond, but that kind of gets out of control. But what this means is I can come over here and I can turn off the pond and the trees if I don't want to see them. But of course, you have to select another layer before you can turn a layer on and off. So let's go to the bridge layer. And now I'll turn off the pond layer. And you'll notice the trees and the pond all go away at the same time. Okay, that's a simple pond. Let's zoom out and say I want to add a river. And I want to put a river in over here underneath this bridge. So let's see how to do that. First thing I'll do is I'll zoom in on this area so I can work on it a little bit easier. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to turn off the scenery library. That just gives us more room to work with. So let's add a layer for the river. And we'll do that just like we did for the pond. So we're going to go over here and we're going to go to Add Layer. We're going to go find that puppy. We're going to click on him. And we're going to call this one 13.3 river. Hit enter. Let's line up our layers here. And now we should have 13.0, 13.1, 13.2, and 13.3. And we are working on 13.3. As you can see, it's highlighted. Now, making a river is an awful lot like making a pond. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by going to Insert, Add Surface, and then we're going to come back over here and start adding points. Now, these brown lines are the outline of my bench work. So I'm going to start somewhere up here near the bench work, and I'm going to start clicking and adding points. So there's one. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to add a point there, here, come back up like that. Let's do that. And we'll put a point right there. And then I'm going to right click because I want to stop drawing points. Okay, now I'm going to start pulling out the corners of these and get them close to the bench work. And I'm not going to be super accurate on this. You can be as accurate as you want to be on it. I'm just going to pull them out like that. There's probably some space there, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Then I want to try and shape my river, and I think it looks kind of good right now. I'm going to add a point right there, and I'm going to pull that in just a tiny bit like that. So let's keep that as our basic shape for the river. Now let's smooth out the edges a little bit. We're going to do this the same way we did with the pond. We're going to click. All our options open up here in the ribbon. And I'm going to decide whether I want round corners or curved corners. Now let's try round. And it looks okay. Let's try curved. And I kind of like curved better because you'll notice this is a sharper radius here. Let's go back to round. See? I kind of like that. And I'll show you why I like that in just a moment. But first I'm going to try and pull these corners a little bit closer to my bench work. Like that. I'm only going to do one side. And you'll notice I have a gap here. So let's see if we can fill that gap. In order to fill that gap, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on this point right here. Just like that. Now I'm going to come over here, hover over that outline. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say add point. So now I have 2 points. You'll notice that it sort of shoved it this way. And now I can take those 2 points and I can move them around like that. And I still have that little round piece right there, but you know, it's a drawing. No one's going to really care about that. And you can see my circle snapping into place. See how it snaps back like that? I move it over, put it on the brown line, let go, and it pops back. That's because of the way I have my snap settings set. So let's zoom back out. And you'll notice that it looks a little bit better. And I could do that down here, and I could do that up here, but I'm not going to do that. I've already shown you how to do that. All right, let's change the color. So we'll do this again, select it, come up here, we'll go to Fill Color, and let's make it, what's that? Aqua. That sounds like a good color for water. So now we have our river. But wait, look at this. Our river has actually overflowed and it's covering up our bridge. Well, to fix this, all we have to do, I'm going to deselect this. All we have to do is select the outline. Here's our options again. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select Send to Back. And when I click that, it pushes this element all the way back in the drawing. So now the bridge and the track are all over the river. Now, if I wanted to, I could add a riverbank in here. And to do that, I would simply do the same thing. I'd come up here to Insert, Add Surface, and I'd start out here. And I'd do something like this. I'd go like that, like that. I'm just doing this fast just to show you. Like that. and like that. And then I'd pull this in exactly like we did the river. And I'm not going to go into great detail and move everything around. And then I'd come up here, I'd add in more points, contour it the way I want, come up here, I'd hit that, go to fill color, and let's use brown again. And then I would say send to back. And now I have this brown area kind of indicating the riverbank. All right, let's go up here and zoom all the way out and just zoom back in a little bit. So now we've got our pond and our trees and our river and our riverbank, and it's starting to add some interest to the drawing. Now over here in this industrial area, you notice I've already put in some green to add some color to it, and we'll talk about that in the next video. Okay, I think that's it for now. You should have a pretty good idea on how to use surfaces to add some scenery elements to your drawing. And like I just said, in the next video, I'll try to add some other elements to add a bit of color to our layout. We'll see you then.